What is up, guys? Welcome to episode 5 of the Unassisted podcast. And this podcast today is definitely going to be a little bit more educational and information based as we go into a topic that everyone's going to love to hear about, which is peak week and kind of our takes on how to perfect your peak week for all bodybuilders, but I guess also more specifically for natural bodybuilders. But I do really believe that kind of the similar approaches apply like both ways. But yeah,
Yeah.
we're going to go through kind of our experiences. Both of us have been natural bodybuilding and competing for, kind of like 10 years, and our experiences on ourselves, but also clients, what works, the differences between certain individuals, and how a peak could be different to another person's peak. And essentially, how you can understand what peak works for you, how to manage water, sodium, food, stress, training, all these different things. Because, Elliot, I'm sure you agree, is like no peak is the same. Every peak is a little bit
Yeah.
different. And I'm sure a lot of people watching this is probably wondering, like, how do I know what to do? What's going to work for me? And just going into it a bit like blinded and just unsure. So yeah, we'll get to that. But first and foremost, yeah, Elliot, how you doing? How's prep going? You getting leaner and leaner, but again on a high day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I said, like I've just you always catch me, you always film when I'm on a high day. But
Yeah.
I'm good.
I'm
I spent the
jealous.
last 9 days, yeah. I spent the last 9 days like pushing pretty hard, saw any low, saw myself getting to the 96s. Um, and then yeah, I've lost about half a kilo on average since the previous week. I'm
Nice.
just feeding up again just for a few days. I'm also doing a devolume. But the look is really nice. I'm happy with the look at the minute, man.
Yeah.
And just looking back at 2023, it's hard to say because I think obviously there's been a change in muscularity, but just looking at myself like 96 kilos or 97 kilos in 2023, I just looked so just depleted and so, especially with my legs. And it
Mm.
just doesn't look like that at the minute, even prior to the high days.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there's conditioning coming through the glutes, which is, I'm going to be real, it's something I'm chasing
Mm.
this year.
Yeah.
So,
You want to see it
uh,
100%. Yeah,
yeah,
man.
man.
If you can get there without it taken away from your physique, I think that's the main thing. It's like, as long as you don't take away from your physique, then do it. But I think a lot of the times we've been like previous practice, we've seen it kind of take away from our physique just because of the timeline, and just like how you've been getting into that last bit. So if you get there
Yeah,
really steadily, 100%, it'd be really cool. See you with striated glutes would be mad because, you know, sometimes you wonder, like, can you get them? That's kind of what I'm wondering for my prep because I will weigh the way I hold body fat. But I do really just think you just need more off. So yeah, I reckon you can do it.
yeah, man. Yeah. How about you? What's been going on?
Yeah, prep's going well, to be fair. I mean, I'm really, really happy with the look. Although I'm a lot flatter now, I'm a lot sharper. 7 weeks into it now, and I'm in the 82s from starting at 88, which is perfect. But training's just going amazingly, like so, so good. So I cannot complain. Just with how fresh I am, honestly, the split I do, which is 4 times a week, just works unbelievably well for me. I taking the weekend off, I go into Monday with 2 rest days. I'm so fresh. Just training's just been
Mm,
phenomenal across every single session. I think it's definitely a split that works specifically well when dieting, but also kind of for my lifestyle. And especially I'm going to be thanking myself because the weekends when I'm at shows, like I can just take off and relax and then train on Monday. So far I feel like I don't really feel like I'm in prep at all. Like I actually feel better. Like I feel amazing right now. So yeah, I'm hungry and I don't finish every time I finish a meal, I'm like, I wish I had more. But outside of that, nothing related to kind of prep symptoms. Yeah. So
that weekend off is nice, man. I feel like it's going to be a while before you need a devolume or deload because
yeah,
two straight days off just to get fresh.
I'm
Yeah,
like 12 weeks in now and I feel amazing, so fresh. And obviously I got ill and had like 2 weeks off, or a week and a half. But yeah, probably won't. I'm going away, was it end of June with my mates to Corfu in Greece, and I'll just train at a gym there. We're staying in a villa, I'll work, just do prep there. But I'll probably deload then. So another like what was that 6 weeks ish. So then I'll be
yeah.
like week 18 or something in summer. So yeah, and yeah, I think I'll feel fine. I might go away, but oh shit, I shouldn't even deload. But
You'll probably feel all right. Yeah,
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 yeah, yeah.
yeah. Man.
But anyway, so yeah, we'll get into it. So peak week, essentially, I think I was doing a lecture on peak week actually not that long ago. If anyone wants access to that after watching the podcast, let me know. But this podcast might cover kind of the main bits anyway. That lecture is more about kind of case studies, and you can visually see kind of examples on clients, which is I think is really useful just to see what that looks like. But there was a word I really used to summarize like what a good peak week is, and something you need to focus on, and that's like predictability. So like for me, I think a peak week you go into knowing like almost like what's going to happen, you understand what's happening. You kind of the day you make that change, the next day you should be knowing what you're about to create. You have data that you can kind of know what that body weight looks like and so on is absolutely key. I think that's the most important thing, and that's coming from someone myself who's done peaks where like my first ever coach was putting me on like fast food or like really caloric dense foods, cutting water out last minute, just like doing dandelion root, like natural diuretics and vitamin C and
Yeah.
everything, and just trying to dry out really rushed, and just all these things done in an acute time frame within the last 24 hours before stepping on stage. Where like I wake up in the morning and I'm just like I'm getting into bed and I'm thinking like I can't wait to see what I look like. I wonder what I'm going to look like. What am I going to look like? It's that uncertainty that it's actually not a good thing. You shouldn't. Yes, you should be eager, get out of bed like I'm going to look good. Let's see. We should almost know what's about to happen, not like questioning it or being surprised. And once it worked, like once it did actually work pretty well, every other time it didn't work on myself. Whether or not that was because wasn't lean enough as well, but it's because when you peak when you're not lean enough, it doesn't help.
Yeah.
Throwing loads of carbohydrates that just sit in like fat stores and don't move where you want them. But the thing that I really learned from that process was, you need to know what you're bringing, and you need to have a kind of method to the madness, you know?
Yeah, yeah, 100%. I think when you're using tactics like that with the dandelion route and you're doing these depletion days and then you're doing certain you're just manipulating so many different things and throwing the kitchen sink
Yeah.
at the client or at yourself. It's because one, you're probably not lean enough. So you're hoping that something happens from you throwing everything at yourself.
Hmm. Yeah.
And maybe one in 100 times it works because for whatever reason it has done, but you just have no idea why. But most of the time it's just a disaster.
Yeah.
Like it just won't work. Yeah, it's like you said, it's just about having that predictability and also minimizing how many variables you're putting into play.
Yeah.
If you've got dandelion root, you've got vitamin C, you've got this going on, you've increased sodium, you've dropped water, you've done it like, and you've only ever done this the day before the show, how can you expect things to go really well?
Yeah. 100%. It's just like a shot in the dark, and nine times out of 10, it's not going to help. And this is the trouble as well is like sometimes a lot of the times the outcomes are blurred because people do these crazy peaks and then they might look worse but they'll win and then they won't think about it. So I think that's happened to people in the past. It's like you do a crazy peak but you actually might actually look worse. You probably look best 3 days out. You go and win or you come second, you're really happy with the result. That analytical part of the process is gone. You're not going to start looking at all the photos and 3 days out I look better here. You're going to overlook it, and especially after the show you might not even want to address that because it doesn't feel good thinking you look better 3 days out than on the show. So I think a lot of people
Yeah.
don't realize that actually you probably look better, you know, with lots of water in, having a really good pump post workout on clean foods, stress is low. Like that's probably your best look, and it's just about kind of bringing that to the stage. Um, yeah, so it's not to say that peak weeks can't be fancy; they can be, but you just have to be knowing exactly what you're kind of doing in terms of water and so on. But at the end of the day, you need to really be knowing what you're bringing. Otherwise, it's not going to go well.
100%, 100%. I think one of the things that I'll be doing as I get closer to stage condition and close to where I feel like I'll be ready is I'll essentially take photos of my look at certain body weights throughout the day,
Yeah, yeah.
knowing how much food I've taken in, knowing how much water I've taken in, and associating that look with whether or not I'm full, whether or not I feel flat, where
Mm,
does the detail look best, and out of those looks, what looks best, and what have I done to create that look?
yeah,
Just so
yeah,
that when I do go into my peak, I can be like, oh, okay, I liked this look and I'm gonna try and replicate that look. There
Mm.
isn't, I get into peak week and I finally think, okay, I'm finally in peak week now. Like now let's start this process of
Yeah, yeah.
like I just think it doesn't make any sense.
Mm. I think the I think if anyone was listening right now thinking, how do I, if you're self-coaching, how do I pick myself well? It's like Elliot just described that process perfectly. It's like instead of, because I actually did this out of curiosity, I find this quite funny. So I was I was trying to figure out like is AI gonna steal my job? Yeah. So I went on ChatGPT. I was like, peak
Yeah.
week, tell me about peak week. And it's just like it tells you the stereotypical things, like um cut your water, reduce your sodium, um, like manage your stress, obviously, but like do like higher reps and just all these like just the classic, oh, you do this because it's peak week, you do that because it's peak week. And that's not what you should be thinking about when you're thinking, how do I peak myself? It's not going onto Google, like, how do I peak myself? It's trying to like think rationally, analyze your physique, and then really think it through and think, how can I just make my physique better? So if you're trying to think, how do I make this peak go well? Just look at your physique, put water in. How do you look through the day with water in? Compare it to when you look at how you look in the morning fasted. How does that change your look? How do you look when you train legs and the day after you train legs? How does that look? Do your legs look bigger and better and fuller? Or do they look more watery and you lose that separation?
Mm.
And what foods you eat, how does that make you look? It's just that is the best way to do it. And I think the best way to really learn about what peaks work and what don't is just experience. Like obviously peaking people, you get that first-hand experience and you have the data. So with my clients, that's what I'm doing is understanding not every people are so different. And I actually had a case study in the lecture I did with like comparing someone like Jordan, he was also pilled, but then also comparing him to like someone like Talib who are peaked or Burt. And you have certain drier individuals and they look better with more water. And, no matter how much food they eat, they don't really spill at all. And then you have more people that are more sensitive to water and they just get more water in the day and they look better fasted. And like Jordan, wait, in the morning, still very full, but dry, looked amazing fasted. Um, Talib, but looked better with more water in. And Bert would drink like 12 liters a day and still look dry, Similar thing with Richard.
Mm.
But I've seen people on either end of the scale, and that's how you can start to understand like how much water do I cut, or how much do I pull much back or not, and so on. And by the way, you never take water out completely, but you can kind of bring it down a little bit more if you're someone that looks better drier. You've got to find that balance. If you take it out completely, you're just not going to be full, and you're not going to get a good pump. But for Jordan, I put in stuff like peak max, just kept water in, but just reduced water more assertive than someone like Bert, who had maybe like half his daily water intake on the day. Maybe Jordan was more like a third, throughout the
Yeah.
day. And it's just really continuously assessing the look through that process and understanding, because the good thing about water is it's so like you can just drink some more water. Um, but it's just obviously when it comes to the foods and stuff, you need to actually have a plan ahead of time. But with water, sodium, stuff like that, you can just kind of just adjust short term, keep assessing the physique, as opposed to just like I said, just going on Google, right? I'm going to cut my water completely and I'm going to have 500 milliliters the night before, the day before, and then at least like that
Yeah.
process is just there's no thought process around it, really.
Because like you said, everybody will just wake up looking completely different or
Yeah, yeah.
respond completely differently.
And
So
it'll
yeah.
work for someone, and then you'll be like, "How did it work for this guy?" And this is why also the thing with coaching is like coaches that like I have my peak week method, and then you just stick to that method and you do it with all your clients. That's not gonna create the same result, and that's why you see sometimes a coach will have a client that look really good, and one might look terrible, and then like what's happened here? And then
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think the key, firstly, is honestly just prioritizing your prep timeline and giving yourself enough time
yeah, yeah,
because
yeah.
then that allows you to be
Take your time with
predictable.
the yeah, 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 100%. That's
Yeah,
that's it. If you're
yeah.
ready early,
That,
you can front load and then back off with carbs and start the peak week from a week out, or if you need more fat loss and you're like, I need to be leaner, I need to be leaner, and all of a sudden you're 3 days out, you're like, what do I do now?
Yeah. 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 Which also kind of, I guess, brings kind of us to the point of like stress, because if your timeline is too short, if you haven't thought about it, and you get a load of stress as well during a peak week because you're just not ready, or you just haven't practiced anything, that can also impact your look. Like,
Hmm.
what would you say is the way that you manage stress or try and reduce the stress response during a peak?
I think sleep is the number one thing, really. Sleep is absolutely key. Don't let your sleep fall off. Don't, and also just plan ahead and don't, like, the evenings before every night, like 1 day out, 2 days out. Do not be, oh, I've got to prep my meals and it's like 11 o'clock. It's like you're meant to be getting into bed, or I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And you're like, oh, have I got this ready? Have I got this ready? You should give yourself like an hour just to switch off and just think about competing with your last meal of the day. Just legs up, chill out, and just get tired and then go into bed. That's so important. And if you can get someone to drive you to the event, like the location of the show, don't be in a manual car pushing your clutch down all the time and in traffic. Like, what I mean,
Yeah,
those things just don't help. But it's people not a lot of people don't get it. Like, people on the show day, they're just walking around all day, like
I
treat it like
know,
a
man.
social event. And it doesn't help. You want to just be chill, just chill out. Yeah.
Because they're buzzing, you're like, oh, so much time. You're walking around, you see everybody, you're like, you just get excited. But really, you should just be, yeah, like you said, chilling out. I think,
Yeah. Stop doing your posing routine as well. Like, people just practicing the posing. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, 100%, 100%. I think, just minimizing those things that do cause a bit of a stress response, especially when you're so lean. So trying to reduce the amount of steps you're doing. Also, book time off of work before you like don't book
Yeah.
like the day off before of work. Like plan
Yeah.
ahead and book that week or 10 days off work if you possibly can. Um, yeah, remove cardio, remove these things that are causing stress. Don't try and limit prior to going to the peak, try and limit your caffeine intake a little bit. If you're trying to prioritize your sleep,
Yeah.
I don't think caffeine's a tool that some people use in their peak to help dry a little bit. But prior to doing that, like try and limit caffeine a little bit so that you're
Mm.
not buzzing constantly and just yeah, yeah, because it impacts your look a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah. No, it does. It does. Yeah, I think a lot of the time people, when they struggle with sleep, they don't realize what the role caffeine plays. Like, I've been having less caffeine right now, and my sleep's just been amazing from it. Yeah.
100%. Yeah. I made a reel today about that. Um, because even if you're having like 750 milligrams or a gram of caffeine before midday, it doesn't matter that you've cut off your caffeine by
Yeah.
midday.
Yeah.
Like you've still got probably 100, 200 milligrams of caffeine in your
Yeah. Good
system
point.
by
Yeah.
10 p.m. Do you know what I mean? So it's like if you're having two monsters, a pre and a black coffee all before midday, it's like good luck sleeping really well.
Yeah.
It's just not gonna happen.
No, I won't.
Um,
Not at all.
yeah.
How are you gonna approach your training and in your peak? What's your plan with that so far?
I With upper body, it's pretty simple. I'll just reduce the amount of volume that I'm doing, and I won't train to failure. I won't take silly sets or anything like that, or 50-50 reps.
Mm.
And my objective really I'll still keep things pretty heavy because I do think that contributes a lot to fullness for me.
Mm.
I won't suddenly just go super light. I
Yeah.
do want the weights to be challenging.
Mm.
But what I found
Yeah,
interesting
for
with
sure.
myself is like with my legs, because I know a lot of people cut out their leg training maybe
Yeah.
like a week or 10 days before their show. For me, my legs, my obviously not the day before the show, but like I can
I
train my
agree.
legs the week of the show and they look full, they look detailed, they look better, and they look full.
Yeah,
If
100%.
I, do you know what I mean? Like,
I actually, I haven't seen many cases with clients when they're actually peeled where, like, not training legs for ages helps. It's most of the time it's like training legs in the week, as long as it's, I don't know, not sub 4 days out, will help just keep fullness there. So, and let alone just
100%.
training, it's like maybe just do full volume. Um, I feel like if you're actually also if you're completely pilled, your quads will be crazy separated. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, if you do full volume or not, there's what difference if they're only. I feel like there's more of a role in volume and size from training full volume or not than separation when you're pilled.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, I definitely wouldn't cut my leg training. There'd have to be a serious reason for me to not do that. Like I've noticed, like you said, like I've noticed in trends, like my legs are blurred for whatever reason for like multiple days after training legs. But even in the off season, that doesn't happen for
Yeah,
me.
yeah, yeah.
So it's like, yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, definitely. One thing also I'll say with training, something to really be mindful of, something that I've observed is if you are doing like back to back shows or even yeah, like back to back or definitely if you're doing three shows, like three weekends in a row, which is quite intense, but it does happen and you might be in a scenario where you do that. You can't be devoluming every week. Because if you do that, you will start to literally lose your muscle because you're adapting to like a devolume state that your body's not adapted to, whilst also, potentially moving through times in a deficit and also being completely pilled. So if you're doing that, you need to plan around that and understand that you need momentum of training because your physique is built off that momentum of training. So if you take if you do three weekends in a row and you devolume every week, like I've seen it, I've seen people get a bit worse over time, and it's not because of the stress of the show, whilst that obviously will play a role. It's because of them just continuously like taking like devolume sessions on legs and whatever, and then you've done three devolume leg sessions in a row. That's not going to be good for how your legs
Yeah.
look. But people make that mistake.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, true. I guess because people probably think that they're going to be quite vulnerable in that state and whatnot, but like you said, your body requires that effort if you want to sustain that fullness.
Yeah, I've
Awesome.
always I've always loved like after the show getting in for legs, put the calories to good use, just full send it. I've always have really good sessions after shows, like, really good sessions, like the day after, 2 days after. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I get you.
yeah, when it comes to peaks, I guess we just talk about like methods of peaking. Like obviously you've got kind of the kind of what most people do is the backload approach. And it's in my eyes kind of like a rapid backload where compared to what I like is more of a linear load, which is like let's say you start loading from 10 days out or 7 days out and you just slowly increase your food into the show. One of the things that allows us to do is really control digestion and really allow us to bring a very predictable look because you have more time, so you can just adjust, small details along the way and just bring that look into the show. But the most common peak is like kind of from 4 days out, right? And they massively increase food and they load up. But I guess yeah, just talking about like why one method could be better than the other. A rapid backload could be a scenario where you want to load when I guess how I see it is if you've done a show and you want to get back to down to like baseline flatness to then load back up. So like you're competing maybe 7 days apart, you're doing back to back shows. You do a show, you come out of it, and then you're going into another show. I like to load someone up from a flatter look and just load up from that position, not make them like flat for the sake of it, but just bring them down a little bit. So if you've got 7 days, you do have to come down to go back up. Otherwise, I feel like you can just get pretty watery, just staying there over time, and not like
Mm.
watery, but look a little bit softer. So that is when like more of a backload approach can work, where you do a show, you're really full, you're bursting full, you need to come down, you go back onto like baseline dieting food for a couple of days, few days, get back down to a flatter look. Now you need to load up quicker. That's when it's beneficial, but the issue that I see with it is you can get more watery in that process when you're throwing loads of food at you. If you're throwing loads of food at you in a shorter time frame, you're going to retain more fluid. You're processing more food. So then you need to also have some space to kind of back off a bit and get a bit drier, maybe on the day or the evening before, where you're not just shuttling in loads of carbs kind of 12 hours out from the time you're on stage, because that food isn't even going to be doing much at that stage. So Would you agree? Is that kind
Yeah.
of, is there anything else? Have you done a rapid backload for yourself or on clients?
No, but I would say that like no, and not for a client either. I think that only to me makes sense if you're so like any enhanced one, if you're well, even I guess in natural, if you're trying to make weight, I guess
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
not
yeah.
really
That also
like
that
if
as
you're
well. Yeah.
do you know what I mean? Like if you're trying to get under the classic limits, you're going to deplete pretty hard. You're then
Yeah.
obviously going to be able to backload a lot of food from that point on. I don't see really in any scenario though when you're natural that it's going to be massively
Mm,
the go-to option. I definitely think a linear load or an approach where you're bringing food up a little slower makes more sense
100%. Yeah.
and more time to get a little bit fresher. Um,
The
with
thing,
myself, I do think I think I'll probably f front load.
yeah.
Judging by what I've looked, yeah,
Yeah.
judging by
For you,
what I've
that
looked,
makes sense.
yeah.
You always get very dry after, from what I've observed. You do a high day, you look full, and then you into the dig and you put do a physique shot like maybe a few days later, and you look really really sharp.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
Whereas a backload for me would be a bit of an I just get watery and watery and watery
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
watery and like I lose that detail. Whereas a few days after I can eat up hard and then a couple of days later I've still got that fullness, but I'm also sharper.
Mm,
And that's just what I've observed for myself.
yeah.
Uh,
That's
but
what I
yeah,
did with that's what I did with Jordan with the so he front loaded, peak max, scale back and fluid more, like everything was just thrown at getting dry from being really full. And it worked really well. I think you just have
yeah.
to like up the fats a little bit more to hold the fullness
Hmm.
touch and just control the water as well. Because if you dry out too much, then you're just gonna lose that pop. Um, but yeah, like for you also from a food perspective, it makes sense. Um, because like for example with Richard, I loaded him and Bert as well, like week and a half. Started loading up them because these guys would need like if they did it from 2 days out, they would need like 1,500 grams of carbs per day. So then your
Yeah.
digestion is going to get ruined. You're going to be really watery, but then also like something that people don't think about is the stress of having to eat that much food in a short time frame. So you're trying to plan everything to get ready for the show, and now you're also spending like 45 minutes per meal.
Yeah. 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 100%. 100. I think also that it's good, obviously, your client should trust you, but when you're loading up and you're taking in 1,200 grams of carbs in a day, and you've gone from pretty flat, and you're looking at yourself at the end of the day, and you're like, I feel they're gonna panic, and they'll be like, I feel so
Yeah, at the end of the
watery and
day.
bloated, and like, oh my God, like I've ruined it. And they're gonna message you like, no, Adam, like I can't eat the last meal of the day. I feel so
Yeah,
fat. I fucked it.
yeah.
And then like they panic. So it's like it doesn't make sense to me to do that. But
Mm.
yeah,
I've seen people post on Instagram like my carb up for the show where I had 5,000 grams of carbs or something. I'm like, you just sound so stupid. Like, what are you doing?
yeah,
Especially when it's like 1 day out. I'm like, what do you think these carbs are gonna do? You know, it's gonna sit
yeah,
in your stomach.
yeah, man. Uh,
Glycolysis uptake takes, up to like 3 days to really sit. That's why also the linear low approach is so much better because there's like a delayed effect. So you can kind of load up and then tomorrow your body weight hasn't gone up much at all. And you're like, okay, I need more food. So you put way more food in. And the next day you're up like a kilo and a half. You're like, what the hell's just happened? It's because of the delayed effect. So give yourself time to really load up. So linear load is the most reliable. It's the easiest approach. You can kind of look to, like, generally speaking, like from 10 days out, let's say, or a week out, it's like you go up to, you've got data on like what is a baseline kind of moderate high day. You go up to that, like a little bit under that maybe, and then you just add 30 carb in each day, depending on how body weight moves. Make sure fats are up in a strong position, so you load triglycerides and you preserve fullness. What do you think about fat loading as well? I guess it's on that topic.
yeah, yeah. I haven't personally done it, and
Yeah.
I don't I don't know if something is something that you do a lot of the time.
No, I do.
Um,
So I literally just I literally just increase fats to a strong position with carbohydrates because you don't need to
yeah,
take carbohydrates out when you're loading up fats. You can just do both at the same time. The reason people take them out is because they want to deplete It's the whole depletion side of it. It's like, oh, super compensation,
Yeah,
which is just a myth. Like a muscle cell, when it's full, it's full. It doesn't make a difference if you've depleted or not.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
why
yeah,
am I?
100%.
Why do you get good pumps in the off season? Like when you're reversing, look crazy good. It's not because you depleted. You haven't depleted. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So,
100%.
and yeah, I've seen it with coaches actually do kind of the depletion with people who are already depleted. Like they're already flat
Yeah,
and they're going into depletion, and it's just like this is a terrible idea. You're just gonna lose muscle. You're just gonna lose performance. So this is just a trend. Like the whole depletion process is quite a big trend, which I don't think is needed. I've seen people load like Dirk. I know that he like Nunes with him like loaded him for I think he was reversing for ages, like weeks and weeks and weeks into his last show, and that's where I thought he looked the best, like so crazy, crazy good. There was no depletion into
mm.
that. He was just reversing up really steadily across a long time frame. So
But then it's like he was peeled, he was ready.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, and
Simple as that.
depleting someone that's pilled like that, it's just what's the point? You're in a fragile state to deplete. You're creating a
Exactly.
deficit, which is way too big.
It's basically your if if your coach tells you that they're gonna go into some depletion days,
That's because you're behind.
they think you're too fat. That's like they basically looked at you and gone, right, yeah, we're fucked here. Like we need we basically need to hope that something comes out of these depletion days. It's not a tactic where it's like, oh, this is gonna make us look better. It's more just like, okay, we've been too slow here and I need to ramp things up. That's what that is, I think, most of the time.
I do completely agree. I just find it funny that you're saying that because someone's going to be watching this in peak week and they got their WhatsApp message
Good.
depletion. Let's go. Yeah, they're
The
thinking,
coach is going to send them a loom saying
I'm
three
sorry if
days
we've just created
depletion.
stress here. Yeah, this podcast was meant to help educate to reduce the stress. That may have, but no, it's true. It is true. So
I was listening to was it I think it was a Revive Stronger podcast, and I think Cliff Wilson was talking on there, and he was like, just everybody is going to be pushing at 4 weeks out or 3 weeks out. You need to separate yourself from everybody at 15 weeks out, 16 weeks out. Like separate yourself. Get to the point where people are like, are you competing like within the next six? Like do that at 15 weeks out and it will make such a difference to your stress and also how you can peak and how lean you'll get. If you're pushing at 4 weeks out because you're not ready,
you're behind.
it's
Yeah.
probably not going to happen.
Mm.
Unless you've got the genetics or yeah. So
It's a bit of a perfect storm. Like you dieting really, really hard. It's like a week out. You still got way too much body fat to come off. Your body's so stressed. You're so depleted. And then your coach throws loads of food at you. Your body just retains fluid like crazy. Fat stores hold all that food, the fluid, like it's all extracellular
yeah,
fluid. That's why if people do look way more watery when they step on stage. Um, yeah, I guess that it's a fair point to make. Like I would agree that probably the biggest thing that makes your peak successful is just being ready early. Yeah.
yeah. Because like you said with Dirk, it's probably just at that point when you're reversing up into that final show that he's doing, there is no peak.
Mm,
It's just like you're just eating more food and getting fresh and just managing your training properly.
yeah.
And that's really it.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I think I'm just trying to think of other areas of peaking that we could cover.
How about well, you mentioned peak max with Jordan. How about supplementation? What's your opinions on use of supplements during peak?
Yeah, so well, as in like peak max,
Yeah, peak max, we use other ones like well, I guess peak max has like vitamin C in it and some like
dandelion
plant
root.
products as well. And that,
Yeah.
yeah, like what's your opinion on a lot of these?
So I think in most cases it's not needed for the majority of people, but I think for people that require like an extra variable to help you look dry, then applying something like Peak Max can be really, really useful. But it's just how you dosage it. So, take it at the right times. Don't try and do two things at the same time. So, the reason why I think people mess up with it is when you're putting it into the equation when you're also trying to load food, which doesn't make any sense because
Yeah.
if you have no water present and you're dry and then you're putting in food, it doesn't move to the right places. So you're loading up carbs, you want water to go up with the carbs, and then you kind of taper off, and then peak max can go in, and you're doing that separate from that. But for most people, they won't need it if they're ready, and they also just don't get that kind of watery look when they're just drinking water or they have more carbs. But some people benefit from it. Like it just really depends on the person. But with Jordan, I just decided on it because of how he was looking in the afternoon versus the morning. And the morning, he looked so good still in terms of fullness, despite being
Mm.
fasted, but looked way sharper. So what it told me was him pushing the dryness harder just makes him look better. And it was the case. He didn't get flatter. And it's also playing to your strengths. If you're someone that is just crazy, crazy, crazy full, it's all sorry, not playing to strengths, but understanding your strengths. It's like if you're going to be the biggest guy on stage, then maybe bringing a bit more dryness will help you. If that's like the one thing that someone could push you on. With Jordan, like even though he didn't lose any force, I knew that no one was going to outmuscle him on stage. He could lose a little bit of fullness, he'd still be the biggest on stage,
Yeah.
most muscled individual up there. So yeah, it does depend. I think, but I also do think you can get someone dry just through manipulating fluid in the right way, like just increasing water throughout the peak, and then just backing off a little bit will just
Mm.
magically dry you out, like to the point where with Bert, I just had to do that process a little bit less extreme because we noticed he actually went almost like too dry just from manipulating fluid. But the thing is, he had fluid so high. So if you're drinking if your baseline fluid is like 10 liters, it's so easy to manipulate because you've got so much water to play with. Does that make sense? Whereas, like, if I told him to drink 2 liters of water, he would dry out like crazy from drinking 10 liters just before. It's like a
Yeah.
huge change. It's quite easy to do that. Um, but he would if he had supplements, he would have been so flat and so withered away. It would be an awful look. But I'm the same. Like I should not be dry, like pushing the dryness too hard. I lose that like bubbly look to my physique. It just goes away.
Mm.
It's like when I was ill and I lost loads of weight. I just looked so bad. I look so much worse. Like when I'm like filled up with carbs and I've drunk a lot of water post workout, such a different look. So it is just
Yeah.
understanding the person, really, I think, with supplementation. Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. Because I was gonna, I'll probably try Peak Max because I haven't used it. So what I'll probably do is as I get close to the show is just trial it out
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
and
Yeah. That's
just
what
see
I
how
did
I
with
respond.
Jordan. Just tried it just a random
Um,
day, just to make sure you put water in after and train hydrated.
yeah, yeah. I just want to see if I end up looking better or if it's just pointless. Because again, as well, I think you've also got to think about when in the day you're competing. Like Jordan, I think you'd be competing at the end towards the end of the day, right? So like if you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
if you know that like he starts to look worse as he puts in more water, more food,
Mm.
and he's competing at like 4 p.m., you need to account for that.
Yeah. 100%.
That's important as
That's it.
well.
And it goes back to the data predictability point. Is like find out what time you're going to step on stage, do a round and posing at that time. How much water have you drunk up to that time? Track those variables. How much sodium have you consumed up to that time? How much
Yeah,
sodium did you have 1 hour before? If it looks great, mimic that level of sodium you have in your last meal before stepping on stage. Things like that.
100%. Yeah,
Yeah. So yeah, just with the peak max, you can just track it and see. But yeah, I think for most people, they don't need it, especially naturals.
yeah, yeah. No, fair enough, man. Um,
Yeah. So I think we would have probably covered everything to do with peak week. Yeah, it's quite a good time to release this because I've got Adam 2 weeks out tomorrow competing in Israel, and then I've got Tom. who is a week and a half out currently from NABA.
Damn.
He's doing NABA as a natural.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. So
Looks great.
yeah, because I think we said we are going to train on Friday. I'm contemplating. I don't know yet, but I might just travel up Wednesday and just stay in Manchester until his show, so I could let you know.
Yeah, man. Whereabouts is it? Whereabouts is it? His show?
It's around that way. Like, yeah, I can't remember exactly what it's called, but I just looked on maps. It's like Liverpool, Manchester way.
Oh, okay. Northwest. Okay.
Yeah, northwest. So it's literally Nabba northwest. To be fair.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay. Sweet.
yeah. So
Bro.
yeah, so he's a week and a half out. Adam's 2 weeks out, and then yeah, I think Tom's doing PCA the week after, and then MBW. But we probably won't load into the PCA one. Just just stage experience.
Yeah, for sure. Is that PCA Naturals one? Is that the first one?
Yeah,
Oh, okay. Okay, nice.
yeah. We'll see. We might load him a bit, but I just want to make sure we keep him like in a really good spot for the MVW one because that's like really what I care about. I want to focus on for him. So
Yeah, for sure. Tom versus AJ, the MBW.
well, it could be, but not in the classes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Weight classes. So Tom's 77 kilos.
Ah, okay. I see. I
He's
see.
5'10". It's pretty good.
Oh, wow. Wow. We would be in the same class if they stood on height.
Oh really?
Me and Tom. Yeah, it's like 5'10" and above, I think.
Oh wow. Yeah.
On the for the tall class.
Mm.
Wild.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, so some peaks to about to kick off, which is really exciting. And then
Nice.
yeah, it's gonna be good. If anyone has any questions with peak week or anything, please just I think the best probably way to do it is go to my Instagram, go on the link, and then you can message me on WhatsApp, or you can do that to Elliot on his Instagram. So if you go to Elliot's Instagram, if you want to find out Elliot's Instagram, it's in the bio of this YouTube video. So equally, if you want to inquire with him, you can go through the his Instagram on the link, and then you can drop him a message. You can ask any questions about peaking or anything regarding kind of this topic. Equally with myself through my Instagram, and then I'm happy to help. But yeah, appreciate everyone watching. If you made it to the end, comment. I'm trying to think peak max in the video, so we know you made it. I really appreciate the support, and yeah, we'll have another episode coming very, very soon. So yeah, Elliot, anything else you wanted to add, or we good?
Well, good. That's perfect. Yeah. Sweet.
Yeah, yeah. Well, drop a like, subscribe if you're new to the video, and yeah, we'll see you soon.